How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the channel. A few weeks ago, I released this video. A video in which I kinda touched the surface as to why I feel like Squad sucks right now, and it seems like a lot of you agree with me. Maybe not always on everything, but the feedback and comments on that video really drives the fact home that Squad isn't in the greatest of places right now. So instead of focusing on the negative, I have a few ideas that might actually help push the game back in a good direction. Be it through better and more engaging game modes, offloading some of the weight squad leaders bear, and a few other things. Oh, I do want to say a quick thank you though to all of you for this. You guys have been massive these past few years whilst I've been making content on Squad, and hitting 30,000 subs is something I never expected to see. Now, I've got a 30k Q&A video lined up, so if any of you have any questions you want me to answer, fire them in the comments down below. But without further ado, let us begin. Right, the first thing I want to talk about is game modes. Currently, the main game modes that you see in Squad is Random Advance and Secure and Invasion. There's a little bit of territory control, and if you are really lucky, a bit of destruction will be sprinkled in. Random Advance and Secure only really has one major issue, and that is the diabolical lanes. They are too predictable, too linear, and too repetitive. It's either a guaranteed 5 or 7 cap, and it either goes left, middle, or right. There is nothing random about it. Some maps are so badly done that one team already has a massive disadvantage before they've even begun. Manicougan is a classic example of this. If you start in the northwestern corner and your first cap is Dam Inlet, you are already massively on the back foot, because your second cap is guaranteed and it is Abandoned Island. Now, to get there without a heli transport, which by the way, they are on a 10-minute delay for most factions and battle groups, you have to drive past the 5th, 4th, and 3rd objective to double back on yourself to get to your second point. There has literally been no thought put into this at all. The other issue with a lot of the lanes is the objectives themselves. There's so many amazing points of interest on the map that look like they have been handcrafted for fighting over, only to never be included in a game. So, how about going forward, instead of lanes being a guaranteed 5 or 7 cap, why not give us anything from 4 to 9? Depending on the map size, that is. You know, with the devs saying that they want to put in some form of asymmetrical balance, but keep things fairly new player friendly, this would work and really mix things up. Large maps with a 9 cap player means you can make the game flow through the map much more fluidly, and saves it being a constant straight line. Hell, years ago some maps used to have a double point objective in the middle where it kind of split. Fallujah had one of those, and they were great for fighting over. Territory control, at its core, is a fantastic game mode. However, whilst a lot of people do seem to misunderstand it, a few tweaks could make it even better. First off, I would increase the tile size, not by a massive amount, but say about 30% or so. This would help spread the game out a bit more, which creates more space for tactics and strategy to be used. Next up, I would hide the enemy main, simply because this way you don't know which way the map's going to go from the get-go, because my next change is, instead of having a bunch of tiles pre-capped like it is currently, make it so none of them are capped. So you have to capture them coming out of your main, but you can't see which tiles can be capped until you've captured the ones that are currently available, kinda like how Random Advance and Secure works. Theoretically, once the two sides meet, it's then very much like a game of Push of War, where two teams are locked in a battle of front lines. Keeping the fact that Habs can block tiles from being captured if they've been placed on one, this then promotes keeping the infantry on objectives, but also makes the teams decide on what's more important to focus on, the radio to take out that Hab, or focus on other tiles. Destruction. Honestly, this game mode had so much potential when it first came out, and it can still be a bit of fun now and then, but in its current format, it's fairly flawed. A better idea would be to cross destruction with invasion, similar to Squad 44's frontline mode. Let me paint this out for you. Let's use Al-Basra and Al-Basra Invasion V1 as an example for this. The first point to attack is North Hangars. Make that one be an objective to capture. This then allows the attacking team a place to get established on the map rather than just constantly coming from main. Once that first point's been captured, if you now look, there's 3 possible cap points here. Basra Airport Camp, Basra Airport and Basra Airport Admin. Instead of capturing them, make it so you have to destroy all 3 of these to advance to the next stage. Naturally, you get tickets per objective you capture and destroy to keep the attacking team in with a chance to progress, as defenders are usually dug in here. Now, keep it the same that sappers need to place C4 to destroy them, but also allow the commander's airstrike to be used to take one out as well. This makes the commander and squad leaders choose carefully what these command assets are used on. Things might be looking pretty dire, and that last point might just be out of reach of the infantry, but if your commander has an airstrike available, that might just slingshot you back into the game. From here, make it so Guest House and Alcora have to be captured. This again allows the attacking team a new place to get a stronghold ready for the next part of the game, and rather than the usual 120 tickets that you get for capturing one objective, you would get 60 because you're capping 2. You still get the same amount, but it spreads the game out a bit. From here, Drug Lord would be the next one to destroy. This one will be more difficult, as the enemy team, if they've had any sense, will have fortified this one. And the last objective will be Lower Fringe. This objective will be to destroy like traditional destruction, where you have 6 possible locations to find, but as a twist, if you have, say, 30 or 40 infantry in that objective, you can capture it to win the game instead. So this gives you 2 options to win, because let's face it, it's the last objective. If you've got that under infantry control, you would just blow it up at your own due will anyway, wouldn't you? Honestly, I think this will be way more engaging for both teams involved, and it really adds something different. Now yes, there is also Insurgency, but with Squidders being part of Offworld now, and his knowledge with how AI works, as you can see from the seeding game mode, I feel they may be slowly cooking something there. Right, now I would actually like to propose a game mode too, and bear with me on this one. I don't care what people say, a lot of the squad player base has at some point in our lives played Battlefield. And I'm on about the OG ones, Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3 or 4. Because that's also where Project Reality spawned from. But back on these 3 battlefields, their game mode Conquest was by far a fantastic game mode to play. Well, why not relive that in Squad? We could call it Secure and Control. You could try it on the smaller maps, like Kokan first, but I think this could be a real gem. There's a few ways that this could be done. First suggestion is, you could really go down the Battlefield Conquest alley and just remove FOBs. You have your main base to spawn at, and you can place down rallies or use a mobile spawn vehicle. This would work well on the smaller maps for sure, as it gives a real heavy infantry focus, and it gets squad leaders using their rallies properly. But across the map, there will be 5 or 6 control points that can be capped at any time in any order. Now, instead of gaining 60 tickets per cap, lower that down to 20, because there will be a lot of toing and froing with the caps going back and forth. And it will be a bit meat grindery, but again, I think it will have its own charm, especially with all the different factions to choose from, and that small nostalgia kick from it. Now, it could also work on the bigger maps. On the bigger ones, FOBs can be built, but they cannot be built on the control point themselves. They have to be a minimum of 300 meters away or something. This way you can't just super fob off a control point and lock it off. Now, the larger maps, vehicles will really play a key part because speed is key, especially when there's 7 or 9 objectives to capture across the map. Honestly, this would breathe some real freshness into Squad without taking away what Squad is about. You know, you don't have to leave the objectives when you control them. You can stay and defend them, but it puts a real emphasis on using your rallies, FOBs and initiative. But having mentioned getting around the map, I have a suggestion that I think may really help with every single game mode in Squad. There's nothing worse than having to move large distances in Squad, especially when you are semi-cut off, or your team has fallen foul, and you are wildly out of position, and your only spawnable place is main, or a hab that's in your backlines, off to the side. If you have to walk, this just doesn't even bear thinking about, especially if your armor squads are non-compliant or can't transport troops. Well, a great way to get people using vehicles to move around the map would be to slightly change how the vehicle repair station works. And this is an idea that Armor Reforger has really cemented for me. But that's using the vehicle repair station to be somewhere you can spawn in either a transport truck or a jeep. You can't spawn a vehicle with a weapon, simply just transport. And this would require your fob to either have enough construction and ammo for it, or a new supply of its own, and let's say just collect fuel, for example. Now this will be something that only squad leaders can do, and there will need to be a cooldown timer on it, so one troglodyte can't just spam away all of your supplies. But if you have enough resources to create this vehicle, then your squad leader can walk up to it and create one. This will honestly help people get around the map so much better, which reduces downtime. But naturally, on the other edge of the sword, it runs the risk of your team handing the enemy team plenty of tickets if these vehicles just get randomly dumped everywhere after one-time use. But I tell you what, if insurgents can do this to spawn in motorbikes, ID factories will become serious danger in squad. Now, on the topic of squad leaders, my next change may be somewhat controversial, but what's the one thing all of you complain about all of the time? Locked squads. Well, what I propose will not only fix this, but I think will actually increase the amount of people willing to squad lead. And that's simply the ability to set how many people you want in your squad. Now wait, hear me out, before you start pitchforking me in the comments. Locked squads are generally made for two reasons: to do a specific role, or because the squad leader doesn't want to have 8 other degenerates in his squad screeching at him all of the time, because that shit gets overwhelming, especially when the other squad leaders are just as bad. Allowing the squad leader to set the amount of people they want in their squad means they can run a mortar squad that's hard capped at 4 people, but it's open, so anyone can join that squad so long as there's space. This means there's the squad leader. They've then got their 2 people on the mortars and 1 person running logistics. The same goes for an armor squad. If it's a 3-manable tank, then it can be set to 3. If it's a 4-manable tank, it can be set to 4. And then that's an open tank squad that anyone can join without the squad leader having to worry about people joining them just so they can grab a certain kit. They can leave that squad open and say, hey, we're a tank squad, this is what we're doing. If you don't want to be a part of the tank squad, you have to join somewhere else. You're not locking the squad and kicking people over and over again. If a new squad leader wants to squad lead a team of 6, let them. They'll potentially have more confidence and control over the 6 than a 9-man. But the more experienced squad leaders will still run full-length open squads. And so what happens is you will see the end of 90% of locked squads. The few that is locked will be due to waiting for a friend to join, but that squad then gets opened up for the rest of the game once they're in. So when you join halfway through, pretty much all of the squads are all open. Honestly, really think about this one, because it's something I've been talking about for a while, and I genuinely think the positives massively outweigh the negatives. You know, other than the obvious things such as optimizations, bug fixes, and quality of life changes, I genuinely feel like these suggestions would be a massive uplift for squad. Hell, simply adding weapon resting would be a huge beneficiary to infantry gameplay. And even the tutorial could do with a top to bottom overhaul, and it's so incredibly out of date. All in all of this would push squad in a positive direction. For me, stuff like this will be more beneficial than bringing in more factions right now, especially even if it's just going to be a copy and paste faction. What ideas would you like to see brought forward into squad to kickstart it into the right direction again? Let me know down in the comments down below or in my Discord. Look, we all know everything is on hiatus until Unreal 5 is implemented. But you know what would really help a lot of people right now? Like really, really help? A simple roadmap. That way everyone knows what direction we're all going in. It doesn't have to be overly detailed or exact timestamps. Just keep it simple. Still waiting on fast ropes. There's been various talks about overhauling the logistics systems and loads of other things that has been widely spoken about for years. It's just all descended into the ashes. Anyway, that's all there is for this video. Thank you all for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in my next video, or you might see me in my own server. Dead or dismount. Good night.